I just got back from ITNation Grow in Houston. What a wonderful event. It's early February 2025. I got to speak to 10 great guests at this ITNation Grow as part of Evolve, which are the peer groups, which I was a member of for, oh my goodness, close to 20 years. I was a facilitator for a while in the managed service provider industry. But I was invited to go there. Grow is a particular event in the middle of the Evolve meetings and on the Wednesday, where it talks to MSPs about looking to when they're going to make their exit, if they're going to merge, get acquired, or acquire others. It's quarterly event, but I had 10 great conversations. It started with Cass Lawrence from Blumera. Great conversation with Cass, Brian Hoppy, Kevin Hogsmoser, who I've spoken to before, John Cooper, TJ Jackson was a great conversation with TJ, Tom Hermstead, great conversation. I first time I spoke to Tom, Hardin Byars. My goodness, I've known Hardin for 15 years. I haven't seen him. He was back. They're putting the band back together. I had a great conversation with Hardin, Nick Recker, MSP, Blue Alliance. Never spoken to Nick before. Great conversation. Sean Brown, my friend for many, many years. He's got an exciting new consulting firm along with his MSP that keeps growing. And Dr. Larry Little. I had the great pleasure of knowing Larry for 15 years. Haven't seen him for, my goodness, 5-6 years. And we caught up and we caught everything on camera. It was a great conversation. So I want to thank all those guests. I want to thank Arlen Sorensen for inviting me, Matthew Lavender, Scott Scroggin, and all of ConnectWise. Just a wonderful event. One of the breakouts at the Grow event. Had my two very good friends, Brian O'Shaughnessy and Rob Bruce, talking to the group via Teams, via virtual, about their merger, which is a great event. Proud and glad to be part of it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. I found myself at 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. I took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People ask me, how'd you do it? What's the secret? I need to lose weight. How'd you do it? How did I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. So we're here in Houston, ITNation Evolve and Grow. It's early February 2025.
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Well, for whatever reason, they asked me to speak, do the keynote, one of the keynotes on leadership and transformation of organizations. So, yeah.
And you know a lot about that.
Well, I have a little experience. Yeah.
Do you miss it?
Do I miss it? Oh, it was funny. I've been away for a bit, and I was looking forward to coming back and seeing folks like yourself and others. And I got here, and I'm going, why did I stay away for so long?
Wow.
This is just awesome.
It is.
It's good to see folks. It's an electric environment because it's all about learning. And one of my favorite descriptions of professional is that when one aspires to be a professional, you've dedicated yourself to a lifetime as a student. And that's what this is all about. It's all about learning and growing. And so it's been a lot of fun.
Looking for a powerful way to reach business leaders and engage consumers? The Joey Pinz podcast connects brands like yours with an audience that listens, engages, and takes action. High impact exposure with a fast growing loyal audience. Millions of views and listens across major platforms. Sponsors see increased brand awareness, trust, and conversations. We make sponsorships simple and effective with custom ad placements that fit your brand, deep audience engagement through authentic conversations, long-term exposure across podcast platforms and social media. Don't miss the opportunity to connect with your ideal customers. Visit joeypinz.com/sponsor to secure your sponsorship today. Or you can email us at sales@joeypinz.com. The Joey Pinz podcast, where conversations drive results. It is amazing. I find that the older I get, Hardin, the more questions I have.
Mm-hmm. And that's the sign of a learning leader.
Yeah.
Right? We become less infatuated with what we know as much as focus on what there is yet to learn. As long as you do that, you stay young.
Why'd you take up golf again?
My son used mental jujitsu on me. He used my own. I do executive coaching still. I mean, I've retired a couple of times, but I'm still doing executive coaching, and with a few folks. And he used my own logic against me.
How dare he?
Yeah, I know it, really. And so I didn't have answers. And he finally said, "Dad, look, you're playing with 20-year-old technology.
Yes.
Take those, give them to Goodwill, go buy yourself, go to the pro shop and get fitted."
Yes, get fitted
for clubs. And I did. And I got out he said, and then you have to promise that you will go to the driving range for 2 to 3 weeks before you ever go out on the course. Because I know what'll happen. You'll get frustrated,
right,
and you'll say, "I'm not going." So I went out and I started hitting the ball, and I'm going, I didn't know I could hit a ball like this. Yeah.
The technology.
Yeah. So we live a big canoe, and I play target golf. It's a mountain community, so it's a lot of target golf. I buy golf balls by the gross, because up there you're in the fairway or it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So
we
have fun.
And what parallels can you bring to golf and executive coaching?
Never take yourself too seriously.
It's humbling.
It is very humbling.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those games where you always aspire to get better. With coaching, you're really reaching out to listen to your clients and help them get where they want to go. I try to draw an analogy with a golf ball, but I can't really help that golf ball go where I want it to go.
Right. But you have a destination in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the exciting thing about executive coaching is that I get to work with bright minds who are really aspiring to become the very best version of themselves they can become. And helping them sort through, apply. It's all about, I tell people all the time, say, what is coaching all about? It's all about the art of the question, not the answer. Because the difference between a consultant and a coach is the consultant's going to ask a lot of questions, understand the problem, and then give you a solution. The coach asks a lot of questions to help the client discover the solution themselves. And we tend to remember those things which we learn. I had a great, one of the first leaders I worked for in my early career was a guy named Alan Judd. He of Judd's Box. And Alan took me aside one day, and he says, as a young exec, and he said, he drew a box on a piece of paper. And he said, Hardin, you see this box? I said, yeah. He said, inside this box, you can make any decision you want. Outside that box, you have to come to me first. Now, that box initially, obviously, was very small. But as I demonstrated the capacity to make decisions, exercise discernment, that box grew each time. And Alan had this great way of allowing me to make mistakes. He never put me in a situation where I could make a cataclysmic mistake, but he would put me in situations where I could make mistakes. So when I would make a mistake, his very first question was not, what were you thinking? It was, what did you learn from this? And so he had this process of where he would put me in increasingly responsible positions to make decisions and then to learn from those decisions, both positive as well as when I made mistakes. So I have, from a coaching standpoint, and from I do work still with a few firms on strategic planning. And I've always focused and remembered Alan in the early days about this is about growth. This is about how do we move from where we are to where we want to go. We've got to have clear, as you said just earlier, and so I was talking about in our presentation, you have to have this tall tree on the shore so that you're always pointing towards that. And anytime you take a stroke in a canoe, there's a story there, but anyway, every aspect of change needs to be a stroke in the direction of that tall tree on the shore. And clarity has to be there. So as I was working and got into coaching, it was because other people had invested in me, and I wanted to invest in others and pass it on. So one of the things that I look for, and people say, well, how do you decide who you're going to work with? So the first thing I look at is, do they see themselves as a reservoir or a pipeline? If they see themselves as a reservoir, it means everything stops with them. It's all just filling them up. What can I get out of this? But if they see themselves as a pipeline or a conduit, then it's, okay, how do I learn and then pass on to the next generation?
Your brand deserves to be in front of the right audience decision makers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ready to take action. That's exactly who listens to the Joey Pinz podcast. Thousands of engaged business leaders and consumers tune in every week. Millions of views and listens across YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Sponsors see real impact, higher engagement, brand trust, and conversations. We offer strategic partnerships tailored to your goals, including targeted ad placements, branded guest appearances, multi-episode and event sponsorships. Make your brand part of the conversation. Let's grow together. Visit joeypinz.com/sponsor to explore sponsorship opportunities, or email us at sales@joeypinz.com. The Joey Pinz podcast, where brands and thought leaders connect. I end up talking a lot to some therapists on the podcast, and they describe the difference between a therapist and a coach is a therapist goes back and a coach goes forward.
It's good. It's really good. It's really good.
And I mentioned talk about golf before, some analogies. One thing about golf is that it's never the same.
Never.
Even if the ball's in the same exact location, it's a different time of day. It rained. It may have not have. The pin's in a different location. It's always a different challenge. When somebody's looking for a coach, what questions should they be asking?
It's a great question. The first thing is, what is the coach? What's their approach, and how do they look at the role that they will play in the life of the individual? Some people get into coaching for the wrong reason. So many people get into coaching because they want to tell people what to do. Listen, but they don't really they don't really consider. They listen and then they go, okay, here's the situation that I had in the past. Here's what you ought to do. It's my approach in my. So I would look for someone who asks a lot of questions, but the intent of the question is to help the mentee learn, as opposed to it being all about. I mean, there literally are people out there in coaching that are in it for themselves,
Right.
as opposed to, but not a lot.
Mm.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to know is, tell me about how you operate. Tell me about what I should expect. Tell me about what the commitment is on my end. I had a prospective client one time that we were talking about coming on board, and he got to a point and he said, okay, I've got X amount of dollars that I can allocate. I'm going to do it to marketing, or I'm going to do it to this coaching thing. Convince me why I need a coach. And I said, you don't. Yeah. Or at least you don't need me. The focus has got to be on what is the purpose that the coach is there for? Do they have an agenda, or are they truly there? In many respects, it's all about the art of the question, and how do I open the doors of their mind? You know, we were talking earlier in my presentation, the concept that I came across when I was traveling in Asia Pacific of Shoshin, which is a Japanese for the beginner's mind. And that we have to empty our cup. We can't put anything more in a cup that's full. So we really have to embrace the empty cup and learn. So that's another thing I'd look for in a coach, is to what extent are they trying to fill the cup, or do they have a cup that's already full? And how do they approach, how do they see success? How does the coach define success? Because I want the coach to define success in the context of the individual, not as an engagement.
Is it different coaching MSPs than other businesses?
You know, that's a good question. I don't think so. I think it's more because we're the biggest challenge, and I work primarily with CEOs, and I won't work with, sometimes I get calls and say, would you work with my executive team? And my answer is, not unless I'm working with you. So I work with CEOs, and the focus is pretty much the same. It's about leadership. It's about self-awareness, and it's about growing as a leader to lead a team of individuals. And so it applies, yes, because I grew up in the business, at least in the last number of years, I understand the lingo, I understand the word, and that helps. The jargon enables a more efficient communication, but I don't think principally we're locked into just MSPs. We're talking about leadership, and leadership, applies across the board.
In working with CEOs, is there a common trait that you find that needs to be looked at, reviewed, and fixed?
It's not. We don't fix things. What we do is learn and grow. And I think the thing that is most powerful in working with CEOs is the concept of self-awareness. And unless and until I am aware of who I am, what I do, how I do what I do, and really look at that with a set of fresh eyes, it's hard to make change that sticks, right? We can look at creating effective change, and some of the presentations that I do, it's not rocket science. It makes sense. You just kind of look at it and say, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Question is, you get it, but what are you going to do with it? And if I'm not self-aware enough to realize that growth and change starts first with understanding who I am. And not from a therapist standpoint, because I tell people right up front, I'm not a therapist. But there is a need to really grapple with and understand, okay, where am I starting from? How am I operating? And then where do I want to go? And how do we unencumber the progress or the effort to progress?
Self-aware. Hey, Hardin, has there been anything in the last month or two that you changed your mind on?
Anything in the last month that I've changed my mind on? What a great question. I've been stunned by the pace of change that is taking place in our environment. And I was saying this earlier today that you look at what's happened with AI and just exploding. And the thing that struck me the most, now, I think when all is said and done, we're going to find that DeepSeek, spent more money than they said they spent, and they, may have had some chips that, weren't exactly. But the point is, they made stunning progress.
Yes.
And it's now very inexpensive compared to what had been. So what have I changed? Well, I'm looking at these Mag 7 and the LLM model and the scalable model they've been looking at and spending, raising $2 billion, $5 billion, $6 billion to continue to scale this stuff. And then you've got this young upstart that comes along, and out of necessity from constraints, they go, yeah, well, maybe we could do it differently. And now I'm going, whoa. The big guys were focused on AGI, or artificial general intelligence, and DeepSeek was looking at, well, how do we do stuff that people can use? And now they've got a light footprint, a low cost, comparatively speaking, and it's just going to unleash app development for AI, which I think is going to have profound impact on us in the MSP space.
Amazing.
When Mark Andreessen Horowitz says of DeepSeek, this is the most, quote, beautiful innovation I've seen in a long time.
Wow.
Somebody better pay attention.
That's big. Yeah.
So, I'm not an AI guy. I just follow the business, and I'm going, this is really going to have an impact on the clients that I serve. Because, somewhere there's a young kid that's sitting there going, wonder if I could use AI to manage a network. Wow. Yeah, sure it's done. And certainly, ConnectWise and other platforms are
looking at it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna change things. So yeah, I've changed my mind on that.
On that, yeah, that's a big one. So my story, Hardin. I started the MSP in the 90s. Yep. I got up to 340 pounds. The doctor said to me, if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Scared me.
Yep.
Lost 130 pounds, kept it off.
People and you look great, by the way.
I appreciate that. Not as good as you, my friend. And people always say, what's the secret? What's the secret? There's no secret. Discipline. Exactly. That's how motivation, I got routine, etc. How does discipline play a role in your life?
Not as much as it should, perhaps. But discipline is a key component of being an effective coach, because I'm 75. I've been around a long time, a lot of experience in different areas. It's very tempting for me to give answers, and I have to be really disciplined.
Wow.
To ask questions. And that, if I ever lose that, I need to get out of the business.
Wow.
Because you just got to maintain the discipline to do things that don't come naturally to you for the benefit of the long term. And kudos to you for being as disciplined as you are.
What a wonderful description.
Yeah.
I don't know who said it, but somebody said discipline is doing something that you don't like, but you know that's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What motivates you?
What motivates me? At the end of the day, it is, I believe that we've all been given gifts, right? And the extent to which we develop and use those gifts to their fullest potential is an act of worship of the giver of the gift. And so that's what gets me going is, okay, I get up in the morning and I say, okay, what are you going to do with the gift? Some days I'm better at it than others, but it's there's a spiritual component to what I do.
Looking for a powerful way to reach business leaders and engage consumers? The Joey Pinz podcast connects brands like yours with an audience that listens, engages, and takes action. High impact exposure with a fast growing loyal audience. Millions of views and listens across major platforms. Sponsors see increased brand awareness, trust, and conversations. We make sponsorships simple and effective with custom ad placements that fit your brand, deep audience engagement through authentic conversations, long-term exposure across podcast platforms and social media. Don't miss the opportunity to connect with your ideal customers. Visit joeypinz.com/sponsor to secure your sponsorship today. Or you can email us at sales@joeypinz.com. The Joey Pinz podcast, where conversations drive results. What will you do with the gift? So given that motivation, how do you measure success?
Success comes, in my judgment, it comes in the mind, in the results in the life of the people you're coaching or impacting. Whether it's my family, or it's in my community, or it's in my clients. Success is defined in the context of the impact that you make, not on bank accounts or anything else. Certainly not on bank accounts.
Well, it's great to see you. I appreciate
thank you, Joe.
Anybody listening and they want to get in touch, how can they get in touch with you?
Actually, I am Team-Innovus. My company is called Innovus Consulting, INNOVUS. So it's team-innovus.com. And yeah.
And you're Hardin at your email?
It's HM Byars, HMBYARS at teaminnovus.com.
I appreciate so much your time
Joe.
today, my friend.
Great.
You're looking great. Thank you
thank
so much.
Good to see you.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.